Can Omega stay ahead sa kanilang competition or can NXP keep up with the momentum na meron sila? MPL Philippines Season 7 is presented by Smart, official tournament telco partner of the MPL. Free to game great with Smart, free games for all. Ako po pala si Manjin Faldas. Kasama ko this time si Midnight. Midnight, kumusta naman? The week 2 ng MPL, game 2 tayo kagad.
Ako, excited ako kasi week 2 ng MPL, NXP versus Omega, and nakabalik ako dito sa
wakas.
Sa wakas.
Sa wakas.
Finally.
And man, yung story nitong ng ating game right now is Omega again. Nung week 1, naging underwhelming ang performance nila. Pero this time, kalaban nila ay probably the Titan Slayers. Dahil na 2-0 nila this time yung co-M2 representative ng Omega. Next play, defeating Bren yesterday. And ang tanong, malalaman natin yung lahat sa draft as who will make the smart choices in the draft. Catch it next, brought to us by Smart, the official tournament telco, partner of the MPL. Free to game great with Smart, free games for all. Let's head on to the picks and bans of the game. And Midnight, I think may mga onting backstory ka sa atin para sa laban na to.
Oh yes, definitely this is gonna be the battle of tanks. Tama actually yung head-to-head matchup natin kanina. The most important factor for these two teams is to have the good tank setup. Next play, Esports, they have Yawi that can play the Sylvana, he can play the Jarhead, he can play the Matilda, he can actually play the Paquito. Omega Esports, you need to remove that fundamentals from the team.
Kailangan no yung mga pang setup
Yes.
dito para sa side ng Omega on the side of Heat. Last time nakita natin dito yung mage lineup ng side ng Omega dito. Ano bang nasasabi nito sa lineup mo, Omega? Nag-experiment ba yung Omega dito, Midnight? Or talagang na-practice nila to, hindi lang nila na-execute ng tama?
I feel like it's mostly on the back end of things na parang pinapractice nila pero they forgot that there's some technical problems on the lineup. Nasabi nga nila yung kanina, isang Athena Shield lang at isang Oracle, tapos kagad yung composition nyo.
Pwede. So ngayon, magtuloy-tuloy ba yung curse right now for this team? Nabanggit mo dito yung mga tanks. Midnight, that is a Matilda being banned out. Yung si Leyna ay nirespeto na rin dito ng side ng next play. Pero tama ka, Midnight. Look at this. Jawhead ban and Cho ban para sa side ng Omega. Clearly, ang tinatarget dito, isa sa mga heroes ni Yawi and si Renny J na din.
Yes, definitely. Both of the teams have the same idea. They just remove the tanks, the comfort tanks that they can pick, and baka magkaipitan tayo dito between Matilda and the Sylvana and the Paquito. So those are the two key heroes for both sides. Now, Omega Esports, they do have the slight advantage kasi yung dynamics ng tank and support nila. Again, pwede magpalit si Hayes and si Heath. And yung mga mages kasi minsan nagiging tank na rin, like for example si Matilda. Fortunately enough, walang Matilda for this game. So I think for Omega Esports, medyo maiipit sila pagdating sa first pick na next play.
Yeah, I think na maganda na nabanggit mo yung mga mages dito. Omega also, they're the ones na unang pumili ng Valier dito sa season na to. Again, hindi naging successful for their squad.
Yes.
Pero yes, nag-agree ako sa'yo. Meron tayong mga siguro niche pick na pwede makita ngayon sa side ng Omega. What is the opening right now for next play? You have the Benedetta online. Probably, pwede silang mag-focus ngayon sa hero probably ni Yawi since nabanggit mo nga yung mga tanks dito. Pero, segue muna ako, Midnight Nerespeto na ng Omega yung Eve ni Exort.
Yes, definitely. Now, next play, instead of flexing out the backshot on James na pwede na maging tank on Yawi, they picked up what they used last week, the Benedetta tank, and that will be on the hands of Yawi. Ito yung flex nila. Alam nila na tank battle to, nagkatanggalan na, wala nang Matilda, walang Sylvana, walang Jawhead, and walang Cho. Let's flex the Benedetta out.
Pwede, no? One of the main reason kung ba't pinipili itong Benedetta na to dahil pwede mong i-tank, pwede mong i-jungle, pwede mong ring i-gold lane or in-XP lane. Ganoon siya kalakas. Tinapatan to ng Omega ng sustain type. Esmeralda probably still the strongest side lane pa rin. XP laner, I mean. Followed up with Paquito. Ano na naman ang ibig sabihin nito ngayon, Midnight, para sa side ng Omega? Kasi ang taas ng sustain nitong dalawang side lane na to, tinapatan kagad, kakasabi mo lang, back siya para dito kay James.
Actually, napaka-standard nung sagot ng Omega Esports. And it's almost predictable at the point na napinik nila yung Paquito. Paquito is really good against Benedetta. It's one of the few side laners that can actually outmatch the Benedetta. And ang nagpaganda rito sa pick ng Omega Esports is that you can flex it out as well. Pwede maging tank, pwede maging side lane. Of course, naturally, kukunin ng Omega Esports yung Esmeralda every single time that they can. But telegraph na yan ng next play. and they picked up the Baksha. And medyo maganda sagot ng Omega Esports dito, no? They picked up the 1-1, setting up the possibility that this could be a actually hindi na side laner yung Pakito, no? Tank na yung Pakito, but this sets up the possibility na pwede magkaroon ng double marksman ang Omega Esports.
Which is actually capable sila. Remember, Toshi is also a player na nag-start out na pumasok ng pro scene bilang isang marksman.
Yes.
And ngayon, kung mapupunta sa kamay niya to, hindi pa natin alam kasi Toshi and Cortese, may part na nag-switch sila eh.
Yep.
May part na si Cortese ang minsan nagma-marksman dito. And yes, I like it na pinoint out mo. Magandang adjustment to para sa Omega. Para at least meron silang damage late game. And the 1-1 can actually deal with the Claude.
Yep.
Late game din. Na mapipersa yung Claude gumawa dito ng wind chant mechanic. Wind of Nature,
Wind of
na
Nature,
item.
Wind of Nature, yes. Ngayon, ang question na lang dito is whether Omega Esports ban out the Harley or pick it themselves. I think for Omega, you could let go of the Harley kasi hindi naman masyado nag-Harley sa H2O. You'd probably want H2O to play the Claude. Pero the thing is, pwede rin i-flex na next play to. Pwedeng si Renegade yung mag-Claude dito kasi you still have the possibility of Benedetta playing the tank role and si James din yung pwede mag-back siya. So a lot of options still for next play. And for Omega Esports, ang concern mo na lang dito is securing the jungle role for Hajizi.
Men, gusto ko na pinoint out mo dito yung Claude ni Renegade na pwedeng mag-side lane. Dahil knowing next play, ayaw din nila ng mga Digi-strat.
Yes.
Ayaw din nila ng, hindi yung Digi-strat na suicidal, yung Digi na nanggugulo sa side lane. So mukhang itong next play, mas pinofocus nila dito yung magiging gold laner nila para sa laban na to. And Midnight na pauka dito, it's back!
Yes!
Hajizi Ling is back. And man, na-miss natin to lahat.
Oo, alam mo iniisip ko nga, potentially pwede sila mag-Ling. We saw this with NXP's game and Execration's game. You can play the Ling against Claude and Baksha as inherently walang ginagawa tong dalawang to against the hero. But I would have thought na last pick sana yung Ling na Omega Esports. Kasi next play, you don't want to be picking Ling and Claude in the same lineup. Sobrang takaw niyan. So parang mas safe lang na pwede mong i-last pick sana yung Ling for Omega Esports just to make sure na walang potential counter in next play. But what does this tell me is that Omega Esports, they actually want to bait the last two picks of next play to be against the Ling para makapag-set up sila ng isa pang possible last pick.
Ang ganda ng statement na yun. Kumbaga sinabi ng Omega, teka lang, baka nakakalimutan nyo, may Ling kami. Ngayon mag-react kayo dito.
Yes!
Where is the catch right now sa Omega? You have an Alice and you have an Angela. So mukhang focus on side lanes talaga to. Sustain game for the side of next play. Remember, naging maganda rin, naging outstanding din yung Alice dito sa lineup nila. And this time, Exort is playing an Angela naman pro-protecta Midnight. Gaano ka-importante itong Angela pick ngayon?
Actually, ito yung magdidictate ng tempo ng next play. If they get on a good start, they can actually snowball against Omega Esports. One problem is that they don't do anything against the Ling. Yes, pwede ka mag-snowball with the Angela, pwede mong magbigyan ng magandang oras si Claude dito, but there is an Esmeralda on the side of Omega Esports. So medyo questionable sa akin yung Angela pick na next play dito, no? Kasi inherently countered ka kagad. Naturally countered ka ng lineup ng Omega Esports and you didn't answer the Ling. Now, Omega Esports, they have essentially a +1 pick here and they picked up a Kagura. This is the top tier support at the moment.
Up there mid.
Yes, it's good against Angela, it's good against Claude, and it's good against the Benedetta.
I think umabot lang tayo sa point siguro na next play, they know na wala silang Ling, pero asa sila dito sa talagang heavy damage output na pwedeng ma-provide and late game capability. This is a Claude, this is an Alice na pag umabot ng late game, hindi kailangan pumindot eh. Pipindot lang, ang pipindutin lang, ultimate, tapos maglalakad lang. So, ang ibig sabihin natin dito, yung damage output ng next play, sobrang outstanding. So ngayon, I think doon na lang sila nagbe-base kesa sa pag-catch ng Ling na to. I think it's still 50-50 pagdating sa draft natin. Nabanggit mo nga, execution, sa execution tayo aabot.
Definitely.
Snowball type para dito sa side ng next play. Omega naman, kayang makipag 2-on-2, kayang makipag 1-on-1 ang lineup nila.
Yep, marami kasing approach ang pwedeng gawin na next play. You could either go for a superior team fight, which is what they did with the Alice, Angela, and Claude, or you can disrupt the Ling. Pero naipit sila doon sa 2 picks kasi nga nakita na nila yung Ling and alam nila may last pick pa ang Omega Esports that can answer the 2 picks that they have. So I think the safer route was to go for the team fight. And commendable din naman yung approach nila dito, the Angela and the Alice. Again, your primary concern is that you don't do anything against the Ling and you are inherently countered by the Esmeralda.
So ang tanong dito, can Omega activate once again the KDA machine? Na-miss nating lahat itong Ling ni Mr. Hajizi, but can next play go all the way to the late game And remember, this is one best pick para kay H2O. By the way, Midnight, before we start, nais ko lang sabihin that MPL Philippines Season 7 is under the supervision and the regulation of the Games and Amusement Board. So going back, look at this. Heat vintage movements para sa kanyang panggagamol dito sa Purple Buff.
Yes, actually, ang ganda, no? This is the understanding of Omega Esports. They know that the Angela has leveled up the first skill instead of the second skill. So wala masyadong panghabol kay Paquito. But Renegade joining the fight here makes a little space for the Claude to farm.
Yeah, actually, still maganda pa rin yung kuha doon ni H2O ng kanyang purple. And talagang I think dito papasok yung veteran movements ng Omega. They know na kapag ang Claude ang nag-jungle, importante sa kanya lahat ng buffs.
Yes,
Kailangan mo siyang i-delay ng i-delay, and yun din yung target dito ng NXP. Nagkamali ako, actually, Midnight. Akala ko Claude marksman to. Akala ko Claude side lane to.
Jungle siya.
But we have a Benedetta side lane na mapupunta sa kay Renegade. Midnight, I think favorite mo to. Kumusta yung mga matchups natin?
I think and actually dealing a poke damage into the heroes of NXP, and the job of the Ling is to clean up. Yan lang ang trabaho ni Ling ng early game.
Definitely.
You don't fully commit without your ultimate. So ang gagawin ng kampi mo is poke, poke, poke. You have the Kagura, you have the Paquito. These two heroes can poke all day.
Midnight, speaking of poke, how important is this? Yes, Renegade getting the revenge kill on the top lane. That's nice. Kasi gold laner yon yung nawala. So pwedeng may mawalang wagon dito para kay Kurt. Pero gusto ko tanungin sa'yo, gaano ngayon ka-importante si Heat sa laban na to? I think siya yung nagsaserve talaga dito bilang scout.
Yes.
Sa OMG, this is vintage OMG.
Yes, this is the playstyle of Heat. He really doesn't clear waves. Ang ginagawa ni Heat sa isang game is nagpo-provide ng vision talaga.
Vision talaga para makagalaw. Sinaha JC dito at mukhang itutuloy-tuloy nila as they are now targeting the orange buff. Pasok na yun dito si Toshi. Ultimate para ka James dito pero wala pa siyang first kill. Habang si H2O ay nasaniba na ni Exort at JC now flying out dahil masyadong nag-overextend this time ang OMG. Great movements pero hindi sila nakanako ng orange. That is a 2-for-1 trade. A tank for two heroes na wala si Hayes, na wala din si Heat.
Yeah, it's still a favorable position for Omega Esports. There are two stories here in the game. Number one is the resource control of NXP. Pinaka-importanting aspect sa kanila dito sa game na to is yung resource nila. They want the farm on the Claude. On the Omega side, you as much as possible, you'd want to take objectives. You have a Ling, you have an Esmeralda, and you have a Kagura. These three heroes wants to control objectives. But the thing is, Omega Esports, they have a +1. Kapag nagre-resource control ang NXP, the 1-1 is also free farming. So the late game factor for Omega Esports is actually bigger compared to NXP.
So meron pala silang ganun na, o sige mag-farm ka dyan, pero yung 1-1 namin, free farm naman. So may part na 50-50 trade ang ginagawa dito ng Omega. Yes, hindi nila nakuha yung orange, pero tignan mo naman, ang daming turret gold na nakuha dito ni Cartesi. Meanwhile, pasok dito si Hajizi. Welcome back. Pero masustansya dito, and I think this is going to be the punish. Wow! Nice maneuvers para dito kay Hajizi. Onting acrobatics, onting gulat, pero may onting pasok agad ang NXP. Alam nila, ilang beses na nila napanood yun.
Dito mo masasabi na Omega Esports, sila pa rin ang isa sa pinaka-mechanically gifted na team. They know that the only job of these heroes is to poke. Nakita natin kanina si H2O, talagang binalagbag lang ni Hayes at ni Heat. Once nakita nila nakalahati nilang buhay, even if the Angela jumps on the Claude, ang trabaho ni H2O is to clean up. And the story of the game is kapag may nangyayaring teamfight, I call this 60-40, kahit mapatay nila si Ling, NXP is just getting 40% because 1-1 is still farming.
Yes, ito pa rin ang pinaka-main dilemma ng NXP, si Kurt TZ. Fun fact lang pare, fan si Kurt TZ ng 1D. Parehas kami. Yeah, shoutout pala kay Kurt. And yun nga, nagpa-farm lang siya dito. Kailangan ng gumalaw ng NXP.
Yes.
Kaibigang Midnight. Yeah, nawala dito si GZ. Pero again, tama ka no? It's all about the side lanes right now.
Yep.
Probably yung jungle, 40% na problema mo yun eh.
Oo. Again, every move that NXP makes, it has to make sense. It has to be focused on resource control or controlling the map. But Omega Esports, they are the ones dictating the early game pressure, the early game momentum dahil nasa kanila ang objective taking. Remember, you have a late game lineup on the side of NXP. So Omega Esports, they control or they rule the early game. If the team fight leads to both jungle kills, it does favor Omega because they still have a 1-1 on the side lane.
Sobrang tama ka, no, Midnight. Kasi I think pressured ang OMG dito to finish the game early. Meanwhile, depensa muna para sa NXP. And this is risky. Look at that. Exort pumasok ngayon dito. Kurt Easy with the second skill out. Tapos si Exort na maiiwan dito. Exort with the flicker. Pasok si HO dito with the blazing fluid. This time, Yawi is here. H2 nandito na din. May onting bawi. Habang si Hajizi ay atakin yan si Exort. Hajizi will just go for the flinch ploys out. Meanwhile, Toshi naman ang magpa-farm dito sa gitna as James is also farming the bottom side. It's all about aggressive movements ngayon ng OMG. Depensang Marino sa NXP. Sinong nananalo sa trade ngayon, Midnight?
I think for that last trade, it was NXP. Even though napatay si Rene J, they still got what they came for. And maganda actually yung response nila. You don't let Omega take anything for free. If napatay si Rene J and napunta yung kill kay 1-1, as much as possible for NXP, you need to find a trade. And they got it. Nakakuha sila na isang kill. And Hajizi, he went on the backlines. I don't actually agree with the play. Instead of going for H2, he went for Exort, which was not the best of trades. So kaya ako nasabi na NXP yung panalo doon kasi nakakuha ng kill si H2O and Omega Esports, they didn't take any objectives out of that skirmish.
Yeah, but I think ang pinaka pwedeng objective lang na nakuha dito ng Omega ay mid lane.
Yes.
Pero nabawi rin kasi ng NXP sa bottom lane.
Yep.
So,
may trade.
May part na nag-60-40 and yes, H2O nakita natin ngayon yung damage na ginawa dito ng kanya blazing duet na actually pare Demon Hunter Sword na siya.
Yes.
And we know na talagang delikado yon kapag ikaw ang isang Claude. And this time, they're going for the turtle. Makuha dito ni H2O as OMG will just back off.
Yes, and this is where you start seeing the shift on the momentum here. NXP now has the items and the levels that they need. Remember, sinabi natin kanina, they are the superior team fighters. This is because of the presence of the Angela and the Alice. Omega Esports are now playing the split push game. You have a Ling, you have an Alice, you have an Esmeralda, and you have a 1-1. Yeah. Sila naman yung nagre-resource control ngayon, and NXP are the ones dictating the objectives. This is where you start shifting the power spikes. Si Claude, may team fight yan. Si Alice, may team fight yan. Benedetta, may team fight yan. As much as possible, don't let Omega Esports split push and take the fight into Omega.
So, ibig sabihin dito, Midnight, ang pressure ngayon sa NXP is that wag nilang hayaan na Omega ang magdidikta. Wag nilang hayaan na Omega magsiset ng tempo. Dapat sila na.
Sila na ngayon.
Kasi may damage na sila eh.
Yes.
Umabot na sila sa power spike na may damage siya yung blazing duet. Halos lahat. Pero ngayon, Midnight, alam na atay ng Omega, gagawa sila ng play dito sa baba. There you go. Haze, napakatagal para mapatumpa dito si James.
Haji?
James surviving!
Oh, wow.
Wow, instant, ultimate lang. Kamuntikan pa. Field attempt for OMG. Pero kaya nilang patumbahin tong bottom lane.
Top lane though, top lane. Manjin, ito yung sinasabi natin. There's always a trade. Now the Basha is stealing the orange buff of Omega Esports. Medyo actually questionable yung nangyari sa baba, no? Hajizi could have taken out James, but he opted to go for the safer route and went for the tower objectives, which was fine. But then again, NXP, sila naman yung nagdidictate ng pressure ngayon. So Omega didn't really go for the punish on the bottom lane.
Ang hirap din kasi Midnight, I think mayroon din kasing specific na buff pa rin yung Torre. Kasi nakita natin na nag-back agad si Haze. Doon mo makikita dito yung yung mastery ng jungling dito ng OMG. Kung yun yung dating Torre, kung yun yung dating turret,
dinive na nila dapat
na nila ng todo yon. Pero kasi still, mamamatay na si Haze doon eh. Isang hit na lang siya eh. So yeah, sobrang fortunate noon para kay James dahil nga meron din siyang ultimate. Dahil doon, nagkaroon ng space ang NXP. Midnight pero with a snap, may bawi kagad ng Omega. Tignan mo, dikta kagad sila. Binawi kagad nila yung nawalang top lane nila.
Yes. Methodical approach still for Omega Esports. Every single objective na nakikita nila, basta libre, they will go for it. Curtizy with a Wind of Nature negating the damage output of the Blazing Duet ni H2O. Medyo ginalawan siya doon. Pogi! Sikreto ng Pogi!
May onting master movements dito ang si Curtizy, pero mukhang delikado yon Midnight, dahil alam na ni H2 na cooldown na dito yung Wind of Nature. So ngayon, NXP, they can probably take this, but look at this! Curtizy with the place! Oh no, kailangan mo na ata tumakbo dahil papasok si Yawi dito. But Kurt, kumikripok! Left, right, left, right! Here we go! Left, right! Nako, si Yawi nila mag-isa at ayun na yung Harlem movements. Curtizy, kakabangkin ko lang Midnight.
H2!
H2, pumasok ngayon. Mag-isa si Ajizi. Sabi niya, binate lang kita. Meanwhile, Ajizi.
H2!
H2, Blazing Duet. JZ Flinch Boys! JZ will survive! Habang si Curtizy, yung main problem ay nandito na ngayon, attacking the orange buff right now. Nalito ngayon yung Omega. Good movement for Curtizy, pero wala silang mapupush this time as Rene J will try to go for the split push. Men, gaano ka-importante yung pitas na yon?
Grabe, eto masasabi ko, labanan ng H-God. Could have definitely taken out the Claude on that tower, pero sabi mo nga kanina man, Jean, medyo nakakatakot kasi yung mga turrets ngayon. So sabi ni Haji, okay, play safe na lang ako and I will not go for the Claude kill. H2 tried to go for the punish but he didn't have the stack with the movement speed from the Art of TVD. So hindi niya nahabol si Ling and hindi rin siya naabot ni James. Now, Omega Esports has reset the game. They now have full control of the turtle, but remember, they can still take it on the side of NXP. They have a Baksha that destroys the bush control of Omega Esports, gives vision to them, and remember, team fight superior ang NXP.
Team fight talaga at midnight, umaabot na tayo sa ultra late game. We're now at 11 minutes of this game. This is the same story nung kalaban nila ang Bren Esports.
Yes.
Ganito tumatagal ang NXP. Yes, lumalamang ang kalaban nila early game, pero nakakasabay kasi sila late game. So to the point na napi-50-50 nila, one wrong movement from Omega, NXP can definitely punish them.
Oo, ito ang story nitong team fight ito, who gets the control on the 1-1. Omega Esports, they still have this pressure na pag nag-proc yung ultimate ni 1-1 dito, yung crossbow of tanks, heroes will melt on the side of NXP. So they need to keep in mind of the positioning of the 1-1, but it's really hard to do that against a Kagura and the Pakito na lagi nagbibigay ng vision against NXP.
Ang ganda kasi ng zone no? So pressured ngayon ng NXP. Hanapin dito si Kurt TZ. They need to be mindful of the wind chant.
Yes.
They need to be mindful of the Kagura's ultimate. Kasi Haze is also doing a great job with the box out na ginagawa nila. Tama ka midnight. Late game capability, yes, nandito yung part ng NXP. Pero dito na ba papasok yung veteran movements? Dito na ba papasok yung macro control? Kasi I think ang tinitignan natin ngayon, since 50-50 na yung mga items, kung sino na ang makakapag-freeze lane, sino na mauna sa mga bush, pagdating dito sa Lord Take na to.
Alam mo, sobrang bilis mag-farm ni Hajizi. Kanina lang pantay sila ng gold ni Claude. Ngayon, there's 1,000 gold lead on this Ling. Di ko alam kung saan niya nakuha yan. Actually, wala naman siya nakuha kills for the past few minutes.
Totoo.
But I think it's because of him being able to stop Renergy from split pushing and the map control of Omega Esports na hindi nila hinahayaang makapag-lane si H2O. For the past 2 minutes, si H2O, kapag nagpapakita sa isang lane, biniblazing do it niya, but majority of his time is spent on the jungle.
Jungle talaga, no? Dito papasok yung capability ng Ling to roam around Nagiging ano siya nagiging, para siyang nagiging part na hero na split pusher na lang siya Ngayon, ang dilema ngayon dito ng NXT.
Oh, this is a kill.
Pwede na i-bait to Let's see blow by blow.
Ayaw.
Rene J playing mind games with the GZ. Alam ngayon ng dalawang kupunan na 4 lang sila sa my Lord Take. Sino ang mauuna dito? NXP ang may retribution. Kurt Easy. Kumikripok palapit. Let's see. Pero sabi guys, teka lang. Alam nilang 4 yung nasa side ng NXP.
Ganda ng bait.
Both of the teams playing mind games with each other midnight. Tignan natin. James, pasok ngayon. Hayes, nako, tricky situation. Pasok dito si Rene J. Rene J, the bomb!
The punish!
Execute! Oh no, nawala dito si Hayes. Pero mukhang si Yawi ata mawawala dito. Nako, nabitin! Damage! Napagamit dito ng wind shot easy. Pero the wind shot is real! Mr. Edgelord! Kurt TZ! Grabe, malasaske, pare!
Grabe!
Kamuntikan mawala pero isang pindot lang ng wind shot. Pero sabi ni Rene J, ako on the bomb, hahabulin kita. Pero may onting creep walk.
Oh my
Habang
God!
GZ nandito na din. KDA machine. There you go. May tusok din ako.
Grabe.
4 na heroes ang nawala sa NXP. And look at that replay. Anong nangyari doon midnight?
Eto, masasabi ko lang, technical plays by Omega Esports. It started with the bait on the bottom lane. They went for the Rene J after the Lord reset. And after that, alam na nila, okay guys, lahat ng tao ng NXP pupunta sa Lord. Maniwala kayo sa akin. And that is what happened. H2O thought that it was a free team fight, went for the Blazing Do It, pero hindi nila na-ready yung cooldown ng Winchan.
Wow, that instant replay is brought to you by Oppo A94. Experience gaming at full speed with Oppo A94. Get yours now for only $13,999. Instant Winchan lang. That was patience.
Yes.
Mula dito kay Kurt Easy, akala natin yun yung perfect Blazing Duet kay H2O. And mind you, H2O is one great Claude player. Alam niya kung kailan ang shoot ng Blazing Duet. Akala natin yun na. Hindi pa pala.
Yep, and Omega Esports, this is where you start seeing the technicalities and the mechanics of these players. Again, Kurt Easy with that Winchan play on the 1-1 and Hajizi being present on the entire map. Parang yung pakiramdam ng NXP, hindi nila alam kung saan sila pupunta.
Yeah.
Kasi every single time na kalahati buhay nila, biglang may bumababa sa kanila, binabagsakan sila ng isang link.
Ang nangyayari dito, Midnight NXP ang laging nagre-react.
Oo.
At umaasa sila na maka-outplay sila. Let's see, dahil mukhang may laban ata nagaganap dito. Onting poke, the Lord is now down. Buhay pa rin dito yung tower. NXP, nadepensahan pa nila. Nice patience para dito sa side ng NXP. Habang yung OMG kukuha na lang ng iba pang objectives. Ang camera ngayon ay tumitingin kay Kurt.
Yep.
Mr. Edgelord. Tignan natin ngayon.
Oh, James!
Oy, pasok si James dito. Si Kurt ang main target. Let's see. Wala pa rin pasok si Hayes, pero pasok na naman si James! The fake is real!
Oh!
But Kurt, mabubuhay mo siya! Buhay! Si Kurt Easy dito! Renny J magkabol! Kurt Easy! Pero may execute dito si Renny J. Wala na si Kurt this time. 4-on-4 mangyaring laban. Renny J, nandito
Oh,
si
the
Exort.
dodge!
Nakaloob sa kanya. Exort, tatakbo. Nag-zoom out yung camera natin. Renny J now tatakbo na din. Meanwhile, si Nate nandito. Walang damage output ng OMG. Pasok si Hayes dito with the yin yang overturn. H2, mapapag-VMI out. Renny J
Bottom
baiting
lane.
someone. Look at Hajizi this time. Hajizi, nilipat pa sa bottom lane dito. Nag-aabang ng hero. Hajizi,
Inaabangan yung top lane.
men, ang intense
Oh!
nangyari. Pero sabi ni Hajizi, okay, lipat ang camera. Isang sundot, kuha ang tore.
Basic lang, objectives lang, sabi ng Mega Esports. Di namin kayo hahabulin para sa kill. Kasi again, the story of the game is that we are playing objectives. If we can avoid fights on the side of NXP, we still win the map control.
Yeah, this is again because of the flinch boys. The mechanics na meron ang isang ling na kayang mang-split, kayang gawin yung mga ganong klaseng movements. How crucial was that team fight para sa dalawang teams, Midnight? James and Renny J, nakita natin yung persistence nila on
Yes.
getting Kurt Easy.
Actually, it could have been better, pero ang ganda rin kasi nung sagot ni Heat. Nung ginamit na ni James yung flicker niya, ang ganda nung gamit ng stacks on the Pakito. Multiple ultimates was targeted onto the Alice, kaya hindi napatay si Curtizi. Now, there's gonna be a steal on the purple buff. I don't think NXP could fight this one. Actually, nakuha ata ni H2, and then, hindi nakuha ni H2.
Nakuha ni Hajizi. And eto, dito mo makokomment yung dito mo makokomment ang NXP They really know kung kailan sila magre-rest. They really know kung kailan yung sugal.
Yes.
And sinugal nila yung last team fight na yun
Mhm.
Crucial yun kasi again, kamuntikan pa mabuhay si Kurt. Kung nabuhay si Kurt, kung nakapag-ultimate siya, pwedeng naubos pa sila.
Oo.
Pero Renny J, nireserve niya talaga yung execute. 3 ultimates yung nawala doon. The Electroplinal Blow, yung ultimate ni Alice,
Yep.
pati yung ultimate ni Angela.
Tumalon din eh, di ba?
Tumalon din para lang mapatay si Curtizi.
Alam mo, ito yung nagpapahirap kasi sa game ng NXP. They try to go for these fights, and even though they keep on winning them, kasi nga sila yung superior team fighters, you still have to ask your problem as a new, ask the question as a new Ling. You have a Ling problem, and there is a map control problem. Because of the presence of the Ling, the Pakito, and the Kagura, these 3 heroes just control the map. Nakikita mo kanina yung laro ni Hayes tsaka ni Heat. They just move around, they control the vision, and hindi sila yung aggressive fighters na pag nakakita sila ng opportunity, they go for these fights. Because they realize na, okay guys, kalma lang tayo, NXP mas malakas sa fights, if they wanna go in, let them go in. Kasi pwede natin kontrolin yung gera na kapag patalo tayo, let's just have the Ling split push.
So masasabi ba natin dito, Midnight, na for the win condition of NXP, they really need to force this 5-on-5 Royal Rumble nasa bayan.
Dapat mampatay si Ling. That's the
Oo.
first condition. You need to take down the Ling and the 1-1 at the same time.
At the same
Nasa
time.
tall order.
At the same time talaga, no? Ngayon yung OMG, okay lang sa kanila kahit walang isa.
Oo.
Basta't wag sabay.
Yes.
And kaya nila mag-split.
Yep, ito yung dangers na sinasabi natin kanina sa draft. Even though NXP went for the right mindset, again, you have the superior team fighter with the Alice and the Angela last pick, but you are still facing the Ling problem. Again, hindi nila na masasagot tong Ling na to because of the nature of their draft. Because
Yeah.
if they try to split push with Benedetta, suddenly the 4 heroes that are left
Lugi.
will just lose to the Esmeralda.
Oo, lugi talaga. And again, nabanggit natin dito, they don't have any catch para dito kay Hajizi
Yep.
unless ibuhos ni James yung second skill niya doon.
Oo, unless magkamali si Haji.
Oo, at pwede rin or maduo kasi I think enough ng time yung stun ni Yawi ng Baksha at yung stun ng Alice. I think
Yes.
enough time
Enough
na
naman.
yun Enough
Problem
na yun
is, kailangan mahuli mo si Ling nang wala siyang ultimate.
Oo, at
Kasi may
maburst
free,
nyo.
kasi may free pass si Ling eh. That's the very nature of Ling.
Oo.
It's really hard to take him down kapag walang ultimate. So very conditional pag napapatay mo siya. Actually, bottom lane, may nag-1v1 doon. That's the Ling and the Benedetta. This will always happen. The split push of the Benedetta and Hajizi split pushing for Omega Esports. And paulit-ulit yung mangyayari to, the Lord reset will always happen because Omega Esports, they're looking to split the map.
Magkakasaikuha na ngayon, Midnight. At dito na ba papasok yung draft na sinasabi natin? Yes, may damage output dito ang NXP. But Omega outplaying them in every way possible. Besides the fact na may escape yung Ling, may second skill din si 1-1 dito.
Oo.
Kaya hindi mo rin basta-basta mahuhuli.
Yep.
And the fact na maganda yung zone dito ni Hayes, ni Heat, and
Grabe.
Ritoshi, hirap na hirap ang
Triangle
NXP.
offense man,
Wow.
Jin. Triangle offense, hindi makapasok kaya pumasok si Yawi. This is a backshot that can do this, but the problem is the overwhelming damage of the Kagura and the Pakito. Mind you, it's just a Pakito tank. Ayan, ire-reset na naman nila. Always look for a potential outplay.
Mababurn siya dito. Pasok si Angeli dito, but James is down.
Very methodical.
Wow! OMG! Targeting the right person at the right place at the right time. And ito yung hindi mo pwedeng underestimate sa team na to. Alam nila pag sinabing focus fire sa isang tao, dun talaga sila.
Oo, Manji, nakita mo 'di ba yung bilis, yung urgency ng decision making ng OMG. Nung nakita nila na wala nang buhay si Yawi, immediately reset the Lord. Nung hindi na nila abot si Yawi, okay, ito na lang si James. Focus, 4 heroes were focusing down on the Alice. Now, Rene J is being chased by 4 heroes while Haji Z is getting his farm. Probably split push the bottom lane and mid lane, but OMG still have the control. Now they have taken the Lord, and this will make life harder for NXP because hindi lang si Ling yung problema mo, dadagdag pa si Lord.
Dadagdag si Lord. Lord is at level 2. Pupunta dito sa top lane. This is a 20-minute game right now, midnight. We're looking at late game items right now. Kapansin-pansin na meron ding blade armor dito si Heat.
Oo.
Just to negate this Claude.
Yep, sasalin lang talaga nila.
Oo. And ito yung dilemma midnight eh. Laging mauuna ang Ling kaysa sa Benedetta
Oh,
pagdating
yes.
sa split. Tama ba?
Kasi mas mobile si
Oo.
Ling compared to the Benedetta. Even though mas invasive mas evasive pala si Benedetta, Ling is just a global map presence.
At speaking of map presence, eto na. Sabi ng OMG, gera na natin. James now falling low. Mabuhay kaya si James this time.
No.
Mukhang kaya niya mabuhay with the flowing blood pero nawala na rin si Hayes doon sa bandang gilid. Napakagandang sagot mula dito sa NXP. Eto na yung sinasabi nating AoE-centric damage output as Hayes is down for a minute. Meanwhile, pasok si Kurt dito. Kaya na kayo mapatumba. Na-reset dito si X-Sword. Kurt, siya na lang mag-isa dito pero ako makakawala pa siya. Nako, H2O nandito na din. Toshi, buhay pa rin. Ang daming buhay pa rin sa side ng OMG. Wala na rin si Renny J. And I think this is it. OMG. Omega is back. At makakuha sila ng pinakaunang puntos nila dito sa MPL Season 7.
You know, this is still the skill of a world contender, the mechanical and technical approach of the game.
And look at this.
Wala, relax.
Relax na relax.
Another day at the office.
Methodical and again, fundamentals.
Ang NXP when it comes to the overall or the grand scheme of things, kung baga. Kasi nga naman, ano yung way nila para huliin yung Ling bigla? Ang ganda ng pagkaka-pick dito sa Ling because hindi siya ganun ka-problemado sa laban na to. And then of course, you have this 1-1 naman na sinasagot yung back siya. Sa lane ay pwedeng makalamang sa 1-1 kung isipin. At kung late game ang usapan, kuha ka lang ng Wind of Nature, okay ka na versus the Claude. There will be, in the highlights, a part where makikita natin kung gaano ka-impactful si Mr. Fundamental Heath. Pero most of this time kasi ang talagang highlights ay makikita natin mula kay Hajizi at kay Kurt TZ. We will see the strength of this Ling kasi ang kailangan niyang hintayin ay mag-ulti yung mga members ng NXP or i-burn yung kanilang mga skills tapos pwede na siyang lumaban. So much damage potential and James on this Alice, ang ganda na kanyang performance, however kulang pa rin kasi kailangan talagang mag-farm ng isang Alice. And if you're looking at the damage output of Omega, sabihin na natin may damage over time sila dahil 1-1 to, medyo mabagal mag-deal ng damage. But overall, with Kagura, tapos meron ka pang Ling, kung iisipin, burst pa rin yan. Physical and magical combination. And ito na yung pinakamalupit na play. As you can see, look into Heath. Yung kanyang timing ng knock-up with the ultimate, ita-time niya ng sobrang sakto. Pagdating ni H2O, malapit na siya bumalik sana sa BMI niya or at least nung nag-blazing duet siya, obviously with the knock-up, canceled yun. So the sustain the damage will not be there. Perfect timing para ma-burst siya ni Curtizi pati na rin ni Hajizi. Afterwards, talagang methodical na ang approach ng Omega. Back to business. Back to their official base work, di ba? Ganyan talaga yung Omega. When they're comfortable with their lineup, they know how it works. Magpapunish sila ng isang isang Alice na nasa mid lane nagpakita. At alam nila na si Yawi ay low na rin, pati wala ng ultimate. So there's really no one stopping them from killing the members of NXP. After nila mapatay yung Alice, diretso doon sila sa bandang Lord area at makikita natin na napakaganda na ng control ng side ng Omega doon sa mapa. Again, to sum it all up, all understanding coming out from Omega, comfortable sa kanila, sila sa kanila.